Jó reggelt kívánok, tisztelt miniszter úrok, polgármester úrok, képviselő úr, hölgyeim és uraim, elnök úrok, remélem, excellenciák, remélem nem elfelejtettem senkit. Folytatnám angolul, mert a téma túl fontos, hogy én csak töröm a nyelvet valamilyen szinten. So what I would like to talk about is, I think, and I'm very happy that I'm complementing what both ministers basically have talked about. How can we contribute from Hungary to make the world more sustainable? How can we contribute to the Fit for 55? And how can we contribute to feed at some point 10 billion people? And allow me to just talk very, very briefly about Tungsram. Tungsram, you know, I mean, we are here in Zalaegerszeg for many years, in Nagykanizsa. And when you look at what we want to do, and you know, 3.5 years ago, we kind of started again, Tungsram. We were part of GE Lighting for 30 years. This year we celebrate our 125th birthday. So what is the direction of Tungsram? And I think it's a very interesting transformation that we're going through, and I always used to say it takes 5 years, and it will take us 5 years, so 3.5 years have passed. So we have basically, we're going away from selling products to going to selling solutions, services if you want to. One of them is energy efficiency as a service, or we call it ESCO. Yesterday there were some topics about that. And we're very happy that here, for example, in Zalaegerszeg, we have already modernized 4 of the schools. The Ganz Abraham Technicum has been our test ground for the most modern lighting in the region. So when we talk Fit 55, we are actually doing Fit 80. So from that point of view, we already reduced the energy efficiency, the energy consumption of the schools by up to 80% by using smart technologies. But today I would like to talk about global challenges, particularly, as was said before, how do we feed 10 billion people? And if you look at just some, and the minister has already mentioned a couple, so he already has done my job in that meaning, but it's very clear that we cannot continue the agriculture, the industry that we do today. I've just read from the United Nations that our current way of doing agriculture would feed 4.5 billion people sustainably. So the additional agriculture, and we call it extensive agriculture, is basically depleting the resources of the planet. I think it's very interesting that soil, things that we take for granted, water, all these become scarce resources. And then on top of that, we have the climate change, we have the pollution, we are killing our biodiversity. And a lot of the population growth will happen in countries that are mostly affected. So think about Africa. Today, around 1.2 billion people, forecasted by the end of the century to be 4 billion people. Most of the humans that basically don't have enough food today already live in Africa and some other places. And we're going to add there 2.5 billion people. So it's also a geopolitical topic as much as anyone else. So how can we make sure that everyone has a happy life? And happiness or human well-being is the overarching topic. Happy life, and doesn't start to pack up and move. Because I think we have to be very clear that a father, a mother of children, maybe in Brazil, who doesn't know how to feed their children tomorrow, will burn the rainforest. What else would you do? I mean, there's nothing you can do. We cannot say, can you please let your children die because we need the rainforest for oxygen? So our task is basically to help everyone on the planet to live a self-determined and happy life. So what's our proposed solution? And I think it's very important that we are not competing with outdoor farming. We need outdoor farming, we need precision agriculture. Our solution with climate change, with catastrophic events, like in my home region in Germany just very recently, is we put the farming indoors. So we have to put farming into greenhouses, into vertical farms, to have a fully controlled environment and complement outdoor farming with that. So outdoor farming we will not be able to give up. We don't want to give up. A lot of people, especially in developing countries, live from outdoor farming around 800 million families in the world basically live from farming. Most of those in subsistence farming, so they're just eating what they can produce, and obviously if they cannot, because the weather is bad, they starve. So let's talk a bit about what is the task when we think about climate change. And it really is four things. I mean, we have to prevent, for example, CO2. We have to reduce what we already do, revert as much as possible. So can we filter out CO2, for example, from the atmosphere? But for sure we have to adapt. So if I just take the example of the German floodings that recently happened, now they need to have early warning systems. I think it's becoming very clear that if you can warn the people early on, then you will have less people that unfortunately die in this kind of events. Now that's a must. At the same time, it's an opportunity for companies because someone has to develop those early warning systems. Someone has to read the information, the data that's being collected, and basically connect, for example, to mobile phones or other devices. So there's always a threat, there's a must to do, and there's a business opportunity. So what's our vision? And I'm inviting everyone to be part of it. We call it, we call it the 10 for 10. Ties or Tiseert. Doesn't sound so good. 10 for 10. So what can 10 million Hungarians contribute to the well-being of 10 billion people on the planet? So you see here like a farm, if you want to, which basically has different types of food, animal basically husbandry, you have algae, you have different other food, because now we have to start thinking broader. I mean, it's very clear that we have less soil, we have less water, so we have to have more output per square meter. We have to use those lands that are not suitable for normal agriculture because the soil is very bad. So what we try to do on this chart, we try to basically indicate where we believe Hungary can play a role today, and we also try to indicate what is missing so that we can do a fully automated, sustainable biomass food center that, for example, can be next to an African village. And if you see that, I mean, every technology starts to come together. So a farm becomes a fully controlled, automated IoT device, Internet of Things. Everyone talks about Industry 4.0. This is Industry 4.0. What is the task? We need to understand the language of the plants. So the plant should tell us what it needs, and actually it shouldn't tell us, it should tell the system. So the tomato will run the show. The farmer is there to basically run the machine, but the tomato will basically tell what does it need. More water, it's feeling bad, maybe more fertilizer, more heat, different light, and basically the system will react and constantly provide an automated environment. Why is that also important? Because if you think about Africa, there's not enough engineers. So we have to help from here with our engineering capabilities and remote control the sites. We have to help the local Scalable, if you want to. If there's a more serious problem, we have to look over the shoulder. So we are talking mixed reality, we are talking Google glasses, we're talking these kind of technologies. So agriculture, the way we define it, is not just about plants. It's about automation, industrial. We talked with the university just now this morning. Everything we know, we have to put together so that agriculture becomes sustainable in the future indoors. Now, obviously, we produce the light, and we have a farm in Újpest, in Budapest, that is 99% Hungarian-made. So the hardware comes from Hajdú-Böszömén, the lights come from Nagykanizsa, the software comes from Budapest, some of the parts come from Zalaegerszeg, and just the air conditioning was Italian. We're working on that, but we're capable of doing that. It's the only research farm in the region where we are now working with Gödöllő, Máté, basically, and we are the first joint research institute on vertical farming in the region, as far as I know. We already have 4 or 5 PhDs working on, for example, the best light recipes, because I think it's very important. We can now change the light. So we can do light which is better than the sunlight for the plant. Now, sunlight has the big advantage, it's free. It's free of charge, while obviously we have to create electricity to do our light. So here again, different types of creating electricity. Solar power, for example. We need water. There are different types, and water is something where Hungary is objectively very strong. They're very good water companies. Can we capture atmospheric water in places where there's no groundwater or there's no rivers nearby? So we take the humidity out, clean it, and basically give it to the plants. So we have to work, and we think we are getting there in 10 years. Now, if you look at some of the science fiction movies these days, Passengers, Voyagers, these kind of things, this is what they have. If you want to have life on Mars, you need this at the end of the day. So we believe, and that's what we call the 10 for 10, Hungary has excellence in certain areas. We call them pockets of excellence. We have to find a way of working together, of bringing it all together with the support of the government, and then we can play. Now, we work with the best Israeli and the best Dutch companies, and we believe this triangle of Israel, Netherlands, and Hungary can be unbeatable. So this is the 10 for 10. Just maybe a few words about what we're actually doing today already. So here you see what we call Tungsram food autonomy. So there's a Tungsram food autonomy KFT. So we basically called it like this. We talked about the vision, but I think it's very important that we have on the one hand the lighting, and the lighting we also do for greenhouses, for example. We just equipped, for example, a German greenhouse with around 15 hectares worth of lighting, LED lighting. We just do some Finnish. We also do some Hungarian. So we are basically exporting our technology globally. And if everything goes well, next year we will be the #2 in the global market. So that's what we could do in 3.5 years. Now, #1 is a bit bigger than we are, but we are basically working on lighting, but we are now more and more working on turnkey technologies. So as I said, in this combination of our different sites, we are capable of doing complete farms. And together with Dutch and Israeli partners, we're also capable of doing high-tech greenhouses. So if anyone is interested, and we're promoting large greenhouses. So we're talking 100 hectare. And we're promoting greenhouses that are next to sources of power, sources of heat, sources of CO2, because that makes them much more attractive at the end of the day. But here we see, and then that's the lighting story, we see that different types of agriculture have to be combined. I don't want to go into all details. You see some products basically here for greenhouses. And one of the things, I was in a conference, and there was one gentleman who was saying a typical farmer always worries. There's always worry. Is it raining enough, too little? Is there any kind of other problem? Maybe there's a hailstorm that comes and destroys the harvest just before you start to harvest it. A typical farmer just worries. We would take that away. This is controlled. In that meaning, it doesn't matter what is the weather outside. Productivity is higher. You can basically harvest 365 days a year. So we are working with a lot of partners in Hungary, but also international. It's very important. Our competition is global. So we have to be of global excellence, otherwise we will disappear as a company. And we strongly believe that we can be global excellent, and we are, with majority of Hungarian technology and Hungarian colleagues, and obviously with the Hungarian universities. There's 1,700 Hungarian agricultural researchers in the different institutes. Can we focus some of them? We would have the biggest research team in the world. Hungary has a very strong tradition of agricultural research. We were in the top 5 not so long ago. I think we can, in this indoor farming topic, where everyone starts kind of from scratch, we have a chance to be globally excellent if we can focus our resources. So you see a couple of the names. We're very proud, for example, that Fraunhofer in Aachen is using our lamps in global competition. So we have those fully modular and fully adaptable light, where we can change the colors according to the need of the plant or according to the need of the scientist. And obviously you see a couple of others. Urban food, that's how it starts. So urban food, this is basically a snapshot of our farm in Újpest, and I invite you to come and see it if you're interested. So we are very happy to show. We'll have to make some appointments, but we are happy to show at the end of the day. It's a vertical farm, so you see that basically we are growing on shelves, and every shelf has its own light, its own water, its own fertilizer. We fully recover the humidity and the water. So just to give you an example, a kilogram of salad in outdoor farming where you have irrigation requires 250 liters of water. In our farm, 1.2. And in the 1.2 liters, 900 milliliters are in the salad. So basically we have a waste of 300 milliliters versus 250 liter outdoor. So we sometimes say you shouldn't do salad outdoor anymore. We should do other things outdoor. We should do salads indoor because it's already competitive. Now this is still a niche, but it's a very, very rapidly growing niche globally. So you can imagine if you are sitting in Saudi Arabia or in Qatar or in Abu Dhabi, and then you face all of a sudden with COVID that countries are closing their borders, logistics are breaking down, and you have always imported 95% of your food, then all of a sudden you start to think. Because that's, and we have experienced the same in Hungary, the only thing that you can trust in a crisis is your own country. So what you have in your borders or within your borders. So there's a lot of activities now in these countries. We're quite active there. They have ministries for food autonomy, and they have put a lot of funding behind that to do exactly these kind of things and very similar. So this is a typical system that we have also in Újpest. You see basically some of the green areas, some of the supporting technology. Just to give you an idea, a system like that would be around $2 million. So if anyone is interested, we are obviously very happy to do. The one in Újpest is for research and experiments. This one is a commercial farm. Obviously, we can make this much, much bigger. Very important, as I mentioned earlier, we are developing our own software for it. Again, with partners like, for example, Biopolus, István Kenyeres, maybe some of you know that. So we are working with the excellent Hungarian institutions on that, but it's very important that we can fully control this farm remotely, and it doesn't matter if you're sitting in Újbuda or in Zalaegerszeg, or you're sitting basically in Abu Dhabi. I think it's very, very important because it's a very big enabler. The other big enabler is that most of the countries where we operate would like to send their talent to be trained. They would like to send the talent to be trained in Hungary because they would like to be able at some point of time to run their farms themselves. So the good quality of the Hungarian educational system is a very, very important competitive factor. So there's a couple just to talk a little bit about some early stages. 47% of agricultural produce is used to feed animals, cows, chicken, pigs, and so on. Most of the time when we talk about food security or food autonomy, people forget that they have to feed the animals. So if you go, for example, in Saudi Arabia, there's a company called Al-Marai. They're one of the largest dairy farms in the world, so they're doing milk. They have 300,000 cows. Hungary in total has around 50,000 now, so there's one company that has 300,000 cows. They need to import everything. Nothing grows locally. So now can we do the food, indoor farming, in a way that is almost a food factory? So basically we have the barley grass, the alfalfa lucerne, if you want to. Can it come basically almost from a conveyor and it goes straight into the stable, and basically the cows can eat fresh, healthy, fully controlled food? And yes, the answer is yes, we're working on that with partners. Interesting enough, the cows are healthier, they need less medication, less hormones, the output is better, the milk is better, so it actually is a business case. So we should always do the food indoor for the cows, and obviously the same would be true for other animals. Now, when we think about animal feed, think about chicken, for example. What typically chicken outdoor do, they're just scratching and they're looking for little larvae and insects and others. So can we do something which is much more natural for the chicken and at the same time reduce the bio-waste? So there is a third way. I mean, you can use it for energetic purposes, you can use it and eventually for improvement of the soil, or you can use it to transfer it into animal feed again. So what we are looking for here is a zero-waste agricultural system, or a circular zero-waste agricultural system. There's just a couple of figures here. I don't want to talk about all of them, but there's 270 million cows in the world. The expectation is, because of what also basically was said before, there will be the need for 100% more milk products in 20 years, so double. It's very clear that we will not have 540 million cows. Every cow today needs 2 hectares of land to subside, basically. So we will not have 540. So what do? We have to get higher productivity at the same time. And every cow needs around 50 kilos of feed a day, and lots of water, obviously. So you see here like 144 gallons, you can also say liters of water turn into 1 liter of milk. So all that water we should recycle and clean, and obviously what comes out of the cow on the other side, the feces, is full of ammonia, it's full of phosphate. So can we take this out, and can we make sure that there's no methane? Exactly that. There's types of algae that you can mix into the food, and then the methane production, if you want to, of the cow drops by 30–40%. So it's a topic that we're working on with a couple of Hungarian companies as well. So how do we do that? Now, our idea is what we call, and I'm coming to the end, we call a scalable zero-waste circular system, where, for example, the waste of one unit is becoming the input for the next one. In the Netherlands, there is a unit called Wageningen Food Cluster. They're basically working on that for 25 years. They're ready to share. I think we could have a Hungary food cluster. Hungary is a medium-sized European country. We should have a food cluster where out of Hungary's agriculture, there is no waste. The input of one was the waste of the other one, and by using smart, for example, Fekete Katonalét, by using smart insects, we can reduce bio-waste, which is a huge problem. Bio-waste is a bigger problem than plastic. It's just not so common. We can reduce bio-waste and turn that into food for the other animals. And by a smart combination of insects, algae, bacteria, different types of animals plus farming, we can reach a zero-waste, fully integrated agriculture. That's our vision. And we are inviting everyone to join forces, because we strongly believe that Hungary can contribute to that, and that could be one of the legs of the Hungarian economy in the future. Thank you very much.